Hi, I'm Larry Dignan with Constellation Insights, and we're here with SuperNova finalist Dr. Tammy Malloy from Futures Recovery Healthcare. Hi, Tammy. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited about this.
So I guess for starters, you submitted your project. It's very interesting, includes mental health and AI. You just want to walk us through your role and kind of what your firm does?
Sure. I'm the Chief Operating Officer and Executive Director, actually, at Futures Recovery Healthcare. And we are over 100 beds we serve here of patients that have both primary mental health. We have a primary mental health program, and then also those that are struggling with substance use dependence. They're interchangeable. They go hand in hand, as we know, whether someone has a primary mental health or they're dealing with substance issues. So we're looking at that here at Futures. We also have an adventure program. We have an executive program. So we're really, really busy all the time over here, which is why, I'm so passionate about what we're doing and what I'm talking about today.
And I guess walk us through the project and, what the goals were going in. I know you were doing some AI for assessments and screening. I guess just walk us through the project and sort of, at a high level, and we can go from there.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to give some history, right? Just to kind of bring some clarity to why AI and how we landed here. I've been in the field working in behavioral health for over 15 years. Before that, I worked in psychiatric services, and assessing individuals for what is actually going on with them in the moment has been a challenge in my career over the years. Mostly, back in the day, it's always been pen and pencil, pen and paper, and then there was digital formatting. The way the questions were asked were always a challenge. Sometimes when people go into residential care, they get one shot at it. It could be the only time in their life that they're able to give themselves that gift of going and going into treatment and taking care of what they need to. So I felt a lot of pressure, and so did the teams that I worked with, on getting it right the first time. And I know insurance companies and loved ones that are paying out of pocket really want you to get it right the first time too. So assessing the individual and looking at their criteria. Yes, I guess it could be about diagnosis, but not always, because so many clinical syndromes are on a continuum. So when I would look over the years and I would do research studies, because I'm a big researcher, we would use certain types of assessments, always validated, always evidence-based. And we would get the outcomes, and then we would, do our studies accordingly and show the outcomes and what that is. I always got a little bit bothered by the fact that when I'm giving somebody a paper pencil test assessment, that I'm also seeing their body language, right? So I might be sitting here answering the question, but my knee is going 100 miles an hour, and I'm looking away, and I can clearly see as the clinician that they're going through something, and then I get the assessment and everything is not at all, not at all, not at all, not at all, not at all. And then you're like, well, it's zero, right? They have no anxiety or, whatever we're assessing at the time. And then I'm like, but clearly I can put my clinical impression in there, but the outcome of the assessment is the outcome of the assessment. So, before AI was a thing, that was really challenging. So when I met Linda and Johan from iBerry very early on, they were doing some stuff with outpatient. It was a really new AI program, and they were piloting a lot of things. And she's like, listen, we're really interested in looking at what this would look like in residential healthcare and behavioral healthcare. And what are your thoughts here? So, we spent, weeks just talking about it. Like, I was curious, like, what do you mean? What does it do? What do you mean it can read body language and it can look and see if my eyes are averting, what that means? And I had to ask all those questions. And so I went down the rabbit hole, and I was like, wow, this could be the answer. This could be what I've been banging my head over for many, many years. And lo and behold, I kind of believe that, we've arrived and we're able to get a more accurate depiction of what's going on with the individual through AI assessment.
And the goal here was just to improve the assessments and the accuracy. basically by reading body language and things like that?
Well, yeah, right. You want it as accurate as possible. Think about sending your loved one in, right? You want it as accurate as possible. I also think, though, what it is about is assisting the individual on feeling as comfortable as possible, right? There's a real shame and judgment that comes with some assessments. You know, the questioning is not too compassionate, right? It's straightforward. It's very black and white. It needs to be in those types of assessments, because you really have to get down to the nitty gritty of what you're asking to get the answer that you need or what's provided. And so sometimes, you know, in reading and taking these assessments, you know, you can kind of feel like, gosh, you know, I don't want to feel this right now, so I'm just going to put no. And so I think we miss a lot there. And, you know, what we found, and what I can talk about in a little bit with the individuals, the clients that we've utilized the AI assessment with, is that they're really feeling like it's almost fun for them a little bit. The chatter, the conversation, it is more conversational, kind of like what we're doing now. So there's not that pressure or stress. They're feeling less judged, and they're kind of like, what is this thing? I want to do it. Instead of, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not taking that. I'm not filling that out. So they're more willing to even engage. And then the actual bot that's associated with it stays with them, so they can check in with the bot on their own, completely on their own, not, you know, having nothing to do with a clinical team member or a medical team member. They're able to almost, it's like journaling with a bot to check in and see how they're feeling. And then all that information gives a real-time depiction and different types of graphs. And so you're able to look at, okay, you know, with depression, this is where they were last Thursday, you know, but this Thursday, this is where they are. And then they get to see that. And they did that. They engaged in that. So it's pretty special.
What was most surprising about that?
I didn't know that it was surprising, honestly. I think that,
I mean, it just strikes me as a little counterintuitive that you're more likely to, I guess, engage with a technology as opposed to a human.
Well, I have kids, right? So I think that, you know, when I didn't have cell phones growing up and that technology, right? And if you wanted to talk to somebody, you had to actually physically talk to them. Really, you had to get their phone number, you had to call them, you had to walk up to them, you had to get all nervous about it, you know. And then I think what kids today, they take that away. It's not there anymore, and they can just shoot a text, right? There's something to be said about that. The person might not text back, but they can shoot a text out there into the universe and say that they did their part and they're reaching out and they're trying to connect. I put limits around my kids' phone use. You know, I'm not saying that I don't do that, but I think that today people are really used to that type of interaction. This goes a step further, though, right? It's not just, you know, messaging out there into the universe on a suicide hotline that, you know, I'm having suicidal thoughts and putting that into the oblivion. You know, this is actually not only picking up on what someone is saying, but visually everything else that goes into account when we're experiencing something. You know, we experience it in the body. It lives in the body. So if we're only taking into account with words or what we're writing down, we're missing so much more. I think getting comfortable is easier to do when you don't have a person sitting there staring at you, waiting for you to finish the assessment and then taking it from you, and then you don't hear from them. You know, this is pretty instant, so that's helpful as well.
How important are the nonverbal cues in terms of what this technology has been able to do?
I think it's super important, which is kind of what I was talking about, where I was hitting walls, even in private practice. I'm a little bit different because I started my career not with individuals, but in research. So my start, you know, I had some great research mentors, was in that, you know, and running data and analysis and doing all those things. And I love building relationships with people. So of course I wanted to do that too. So I kind of went back and forth. But again, I did always say, when I would give this psychometric battery to individuals to take, and I would be grading them and I would be entering the data, because there's some kind of magic that happens when you enter data. You start thinking of the next thing you can do for research. So I like to do that too. But I would be stumped on, I know this person. Like I would sit there and think to myself, they were extremely, anxious when they filled this out. I thought for sure that they were going to score moderate on this, or that they, I could tell that this was going on. And minimization is a thing, not wanting to put that out there and have others judge you is a thing that we've all experienced. So I think the nonverbal cues are crucial.
And how did you meet up with iBerry?
So we have an advisory board that we treat veterans and first responders here at Futures. And so we have a board of individuals that live in all different states that help us advise us on that, because it takes a village, and Futures believes in doing it right, as do I. And an individual on that board reached out and said, I want to make this introduction with Linda, and who's, the CEO there, or the co-CEO, I should say, with Johan. And I'm always like, okay, what is this? And they're like, it's an assessment. Well, you just say the word assessment to me, and I'm like, oh, okay, let me take a look at it. So I got, we did a Zoom, and it was an immediate connection. She was so passionate. And when I was sharing, my history and the walls I was hitting, she's like, oh my gosh, yes. And then I would say things and she'd be like, oh my gosh, we didn't think of that. And let me write that down. And I think because I felt like it was so collaborative, I've met with a lot of different platforms and different psychometric platforms and individuals that weren't really interested on what was going on this end. They had an agenda that they wanted to see through, and you could make a suggestion, but they were like, yeah, okay, we'll take that in consideration. And then nothing changes. And they just weren't like that. They're not like that over there. They want to hear about it. Even now, as we're rolling out our pilot studies over here and we're looking at things, they're interested in, okay, what's not working? What are you seeing? We want to know. And then they make changes in real time. And that's like unheard of.
And that's is that largely because, iBerry had, I think they're on their seed funding round. It's a small startup.
Yep.
Is that why you think it was easier to collaborate with them versus, one of the big platforms?
That's a good question. I think with bigger platforms, they do already have the people in their ear, right? Already. And I think it's a mindset of, we know what we're doing. That's nice what you're saying, but we know what we're doing. With them though, I don't know that that's the case, because they're doing so much of their own research. And, I am collaborating with Jason at iBerry to speak at a conference in November on AI and mental health. And although, I'm bringing data from where I am, he's bringing a sea of data as well from all the different organizations and facilities that they're pulling research from. So it's pretty vast. It's growing pretty fast. And there's still, it's almost like, I can text it, even though they're getting big, I'm like, hey, this is what we're seeing over here. What are your thoughts? And I get a response within a few hours. So eventually I get it, maybe it won't be the case, but right now it still is.
Yeah, you're kind of co-developing a product with them. It's co-innovation in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I don't know that I'm the only one. I don't talk about, we don't talk about their other collaborations and who they're working with. But I think also what it has to do with is them individually over there. It's they're scientists and they're researchers, but they are so personable and they really connect with you. And I think that building the relationship is so important. And I think that's also what makes it work.
So what technical expertise did you have in-house, and how long did it take to implement this?
So Myself and one other, Kate Armstrong, who is my right hand for all of this. She's absolutely phenomenal. She and I have been together for many, many years, not at Futures, but out there in the behavioral health universe for many years, and we have a shared passion. So I was at Futures probably, 6 months. I've been here 2.5 years now. They brought me on here as an executive director, and then I was promoted to COO because of my experience with research and assessment and that clinical, that knowledge there. They really wanted to expand over here, and they were already doing a great job on specialty tracks and looking at things that nobody else was looking at and giving great quality care. And they wanted to take that to the next level. As I said before, insurance companies don't want somebody being in treatment 5, 6, 7 times. They don't want them in emergency rooms, to talk about, what that looks like from a perspective of cost. And, when you look at that, they don't want to see that. They want to see that we're assessing properly, that we're looking at criteria, that we're looking at medications if need be, that the interventions we're using are appropriate. And the assessments need to inform that, and they need to be proper assessments in order to do that.
So how long did it take to hook this up?
So the talking went around, what was 3, 4, 5 months. Once they were like, hey, do you want to do this? And I felt like, you know what, let's just do it. All in, it took 9 months to implement. So, and I say that only because I'm extremely cautious. And so Kate and I started with our Heroes Ascent program, which is our first responder program. And we started with our executive program. Part of the reason why we decided to do that is because they're smaller programs. Our Arenda program is 16 beds, and Heroes Ascent is about 8. So we wanted to start there. And if there were any kinks, we wanted to work them out at that time. Once we were comfortable and they were coming down too. iBerry was coming down and doing trainings with staff, and they were very much hands-on with Kate and I and doing what's behind it. Because you can't just tell people you need to do this. You need to tell them why it's so important to get the buy-in and for them to understand that it's for quality care and assessing. And everybody just loved it, the clinicians and the staff. So once we felt like we were comfortable and all the kinks were worked out and who's giving it, how we're giving it, who's looking at it, how we're integrating it, how we're conceptualizing it, we rolled it out to the whole facility. So overall 9 months.
And were there any data challenges there, or where does the data go, I guess, when it's being tracked? Or is it kind of on the patient's device real time, or I guess how's the data flow work?
So that's two different things, right? Yeah, the data is in real time. Like when it's going in, when they're completing the assessments, right away we can go into the platform and view it. So it's all there in real time. The data we're collecting, of course, we run, we enter into SPSS in our own system, and we run our own data, but we do that quarterly. So we don't do that, constantly. And then the feedback we give from that, this is what we're seeing, this is what we're not capturing, this is what's not showing up. 74% to 76% of our clients are preferring iBerry over any other assessment. It was really important that even on satisfaction surveys that we were putting questions there, right? Because we needed to know that. We felt it was going to be a home run, but you don't know what clients are going to feel. And so that was really, really important to us, that even though we were passionate about it, we wanted to make sure that it was doing what it needed to do for our patients.
And what were some of the results and returns you've seen?
It has to do with the depression piece. I think I'll talk probably in a little bit about where I see this going. Right now, it's assessing depression and suicidality. So I think, what we're seeing here more so is that on the paper pencil, the PHQ-9, if I have a client take that and do iBerry, with the PHQ-9, they're showing up sometimes as low, and then with iBerry, they're showing up as moderate. And I think that's because, again, you've got the nonverbal cues. And then what we do is we take that information and we process that with the client. And it ends up that they are moderately depressed. They're not, lower than that. And the same with the suicidality and suicidal thoughts and those things. We're capturing that. And I think too, where we've seen a huge shift is with our first responders. We're actually able to capture. A lot of them would come in and not even, nothing. It would be zero, everything. And we're like, okay, well, that can't be it. You're here. You're obviously here for a reason. You can't not be experiencing anything. And with iBerry, we've been able to capture what's going on with them and talk to them about it. They really like the visual of it, and they feel like they're, more involved with their overall treatment.
So where do you see this going? I guess what's phase 2 look like, and how do you think this scales out to other healthcare institutions, and where do you see this headed?
So I'm going to go big and then go in.
Sure.
It's all over the television, right? All different ways. I was watching the news last night, and there was, an AI dog. You won't have your own furry friend. You could also have a robot dog to go running with you and do all those things, right? So I'm watching this. I'm like, all right, well, that could be kind of cool, but I still want actually my dog too. Right. And it kind of leads into what I'm about to say. I think that where I see this going is full throttle with clinical syndromes and personality pathology, and being able to, in a more efficient way and accurate way, to assist those that are struggling and understanding sooner than later what's going on with them on a full spectrum and on a continuum. Again, I truly believe that mental health is on a continuum, that people don't fit into little neat boxes with that. And I think that's where mental health is going, and that this is going to be a really important intervention and instrument to assist with that, and to take the stigma that's associated with mental health out of it. So I think I see it going and it being able to assess for more. But that being said, that being said, I also believe that you need people like myself and others in the field to humanize it and to put it all together, right? For resourcing, what do I do now? It's great to have all this information, but conceptually there needs to be someone that has a full understanding of what it all means and what now, right? Because it's on a continuum. It's for a lifespan. Whether you're dealing with addiction issues, mental health issues, or both, it is on a continuum and on a lifespan. So it doesn't just stop there. And I think that's where we're headed.
All right. Anything I didn't ask that I should have?
Oh my gosh. I could talk about this for hours.
Oh, we covered a lot of ground.
No, I think, again, we're capturing the qualitative data as well, Larry. We're really looking at, tell us how you're feeling about this. And I think as long as whatever AI is out there, whether it's in mental health or anything, that's important. It's important to have those checks and balances. And as long as we do that, I think we can help a lot of people.
All right. Thanks for joining us, and congrats on being a SuperNova finalist.
Thank you so much. I feel blessed. I look forward to it. Thank you.